Welcome back. We're in chapter 7 here, and in chapter 7 we get kind of the influence of Marxism, how it came, or at least new Marxism came to America. And as we enter into this Pastor Dare, it was somewhat startling to read in the study that the plan of cultural Marxists was to intentionally capture the culture.
I appreciate you saying that it was surprising. Again, when I started all this, it was quite surprising to me as well. In other words, it's not an accident, the things that we see today. It's not like, oh, this just happened. There obviously is a force, a thinking, an ideology that is here. And if we take a look at really this history of Marxism to cultural Marxism, we can see they're very clear about what their intentions are.
And they were going to start in this takeover of the culture, or capturing the culture. Where were they going to start?
Well, they picked the main areas that, of course, bind people together and by which then they can influence the most people. So you have things like universities, of course.
Yes.
You have things like schools. I mean, you have the kids all together. You have things like the media, of course, disseminating information day after day, and even the church. And those are those areas then of a culture that they said this is where we need to target in order for us to get our ideology into society.
So this has been in effect, or in implementation stage for 7 decades. Is that fair? Since the 1950s?
Yes. When we're talking about America, absolutely.
So for 7 decades, this has been marching forward, and they've made progress in those 7 decades. Just from having done the study, looking around at the world with kind of a different eyes than when you started, how successful has this campaign been in your estimation?
Well, successful to the point where I think it can rightly be called the predominant ideology of today. I would call that success. When we as a culture see most everything in terms of a power dynamic, that there is one party that is always oppressed, people rushing to be victims, people divided. When we can see things, you mentioned critical theory, an offshoot critical race theory that really is predominant, taught at really basically every university that's out there. It's being taught in our high schools, our grade schools. There's evidence everywhere of just how successful this has been.
So this is, it might be kind of, in some ways, late in the game if it's predominant, but important for us to take notice of. And I think as we come through these studies more, we'll find it's not because of our own personal well-being or welfare, but for the sake of others.
Yes, it's really a both and with that. You know, something that I think back that we didn't touch on in our introduction, going all the way back to the beginning of this study, is this does impact hearts and lives, and I would say the conscience of people. So for instance, if you're labeling somebody that they are evil, or they are an oppressor, you know, as part of that, well, that creates, especially say in a child, guilt, shame. On the other hand, if you're saying somebody is oppressed, and again, I'll talk about a child, you're also then saying, you know, you need to be filled with anger. You perhaps even need to be filled with vengeance because you're a victim too. And, you know, it takes away then this idea of achieving. There's all sorts of personal impact that this can have on people.
Yeah. Well, this is a lot for us to continue to take in. After today, you'll come through 7 weeks of study here, and blessings as you take time to look how it is that Marxism has come to impact our lives, our culture, our societies today. Blessings on your study.